Good morning, friends. I'm going to go ahead and get our story posted for today. So we are going to finish chapter 12. We started it yesterday and we read the first half. We're going to read the second half today. If you'll remember, Stuart saw the school superintendent, and he is in a classroom today being the substitute teacher. Oh my goodness. He skipped math, he skipped spelling, he skipped writing and social studies, and he told the kids yesterday, let's just talk. All right, so this is where we're going to start. The kids were asking him, can we talk about this? And he said, no. No, said Stuart, I'll tell you. Let's talk about the king of the world. He looked all around the room, hopeful to see how the children liked that idea. There isn't any king of the world, said Harry Jameson in disgust. What's the diff? Said Stuart. There ought to be one. But kings are old-fashioned, said Harry. Well, all right then, let's talk about the chairman of the world. The world gets into a lot of trouble because it has no chairman. I would like to be chairman of the world myself. You're too small, said Mary Bendix. Oh, fish feathers, said Stuart. Size has nothing to do with it. It's all about temperament and ability. That's what counts. The chairman has to have the ability, and he must know what's important. How many of you know what's important? Up went all the hands. Very good, said Stuart, cocking one leg across the other and shoving his hands into the pockets of his jacket. Henry Rackmeyer, you tell us what's important. A shaft of sunlight at the end of a dark afternoon, a note in music, and the way the back of a baby's neck smells if its mother keeps it tidy, answered Henry. Do you think those things are important? I think those things are kind of weird. Correct, said Stuart. Those are important things. But you forgot one thing. Mary Bendix, what did Henry Rackmeyer forget? He forgot ice cream with chocolate sauce on it, said Mary quickly. Exactly, said Stuart. Ice cream is important. Well now, if I'm going to be the chairman of the world this morning, then we've got to come up with some rules. Otherwise, it will be too confusing, with everyone running every which way and helping himself to things and nobody behaving. We have to have some laws if we're going to play this game. Can anyone suggest any good laws for the world? Albert Ferdstrom raised his hand. Don't eat mushrooms. They might be toadstools, suggested Albert. That's not a law, said Stuart. That's merely a bit of friendly advice. It's very good advice, Albert, but advice and law are not the same. Law is much more solemn than advice. Law is extremely solemn. Can anyone else think of a law for the world? Nix on swiping things, suggested John Pulaski. Excuse me. Very good, said Stuart. Good law. Never poison anything but rats, said Anthony Brinsky. That's no good, said Stuart. That's unfair to the rats. A law has to be fair to everyone. Anthony looked sulky. But rats are unfair to us, he said. Rats are objectionable. I know they are, said Stuart, but from a rat's point of view, poison is objectionable. A chairman has to be able to see all the sides of a problem. Do you have a rat's point of view? Asked Anthony. You look kind of like a rat. No, replied Stuart. I have more of the point of view of a mouse, which is very different. I see things whole. It's obvious to me that rats are underprivileged. They've never been able to get out in the open. But rats don't like it in the open, said Agnes Beretska. Well, that's because whenever they come out, someone socks them. Rats might like the open if they were allowed to use it. Any other ideas for laws? Agnes Beretska raised her hand. There ought to be a law against fighting. Impractical, said Stuart. Men like to fight. But you're getting warm, Agnes. No scrapping? Asked Agnes timidly. Stuart shook his head. Absolutely no being mean, suggested Mildred Hostein. That's a very fine law, said Stuart. When I am chairman, anyone who is being mean to anyone else is going to catch it. Well, that won't work, remarked Herbert Pendergast. Some people are just naturally mean. Albert Ferdstrom is mean to me. Well, I'm not saying it'll work, said Stuart. It's a good law, and we'll give it a try. We'll give it a try right here and now. Someone do something mean to somebody. Harry Jameson, you be mean to Catherine Stableford. Wait a minute. Now, what's that you've got there in your hand, Catherine? It's a tiny little pillow stuffed with sweet balsam. Does it say, For you I pine, for you I balsam on it. Yes, said Catherine. Do you love it very much? Asked Stuart. Yes, I do, said Catherine. Okay. Harry, grab it and take it away. Harry ran over to where Catherine sat, grabbed the little pillow from her hand, and ran back to his seat while Catherine screamed. Now then, said Stuart in a fierce voice, hold on, my good people, while your chairman consults the book of rules. He pretended to thumb through a book. Here we are, page 492, absolutely no being mean. Page 560, nix on swiping anything. Harry Jameson has broken 2 laws, the law against being mean and the law against swiping. Let's go get Harry and let's set him back before he becomes so mean people will hardly recognize him anymore. Come on. Stuart ran for the yardstick and slid down like a fireman coming down a pole in a firehouse. Look, and here's a picture of Stuart sliding down the pole. He ran towards Harry, and the other children jumped up from their seats and raced up and down the aisles and crowded around Harry while Stuart demanded that he give up the little pillow. Harry looked frightened, and although he knew it was just a test, he gave Catherine the pillow back. There, that worked pretty well, said Stuart. No being mean is a perfectly good law. He wiped his face with his handkerchief, for he was quite warm from the exertion of being chairman of the world. It had taken a lot more running and leaping and sliding than he had imagined. Catherine was very much pleased to have her pillow back. Let me see that little pillow a minute, said Stuart, whose curiosity was getting the better of him. Catherine showed it to him. It was about as long as Stuart was high, and Stuart suddenly thought what a fine, sweet-smelling bed it would make for him, and he actually began to want the pillow for himself. And there's a picture of Stuart with Harry demanding he give the pillow back. That's a very pretty little thing, said Stuart, trying to hide his eagerness. You wouldn't want to sell it, would you? Oh, no, replied Catherine. It was a present to me. Oh, I suppose it was given to you by a boy that you met at the lake last summer, and it reminds you of him, murmured Stuart dreamily. Yes, it was, said Catherine, blushing. Ah, said Stuart, summers are wonderful, aren't they, Catherine? Yes, and last summer was the most wonderful summer I've ever had in my life. I can imagine, replied Stuart. You're sure you don't want to sell that little pillow? Catherine shook her head. I don't know as I blame you, replied Stuart quietly. Summertime is important. It's kind of like a shaft of sunlight. Or a note in music, said Elizabeth Akeson. Or the way a back of a baby's neck smells if its mother keeps it tidy, said Marilyn Roberts. Stuart sighed. Never forget your summer times, my dears, he said. Well, I've got to be getting along now. It's been a pleasure to know you all. Class is dismissed. Wow, would you like to have that for your day in school? No real work, just kind of talking about something? Stuart strode rapidly to the door, climbed into the car, and with a final wave of his hand, drove off in a northerly direction, while the children raced alongside and screamed, Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. They all wished they could have a substitute every day instead of Miss Gunderson. Now look at this picture. This is interesting. Here's their school. There's the children. There's Stuart driving off. But look at their school. It's school number 7. It looks very different from our school. What can you tell me? What can you think? What kind of school do you think this might be? I'm not sure about that school. All right, that's all for chapter 12. That was part 2 of chapter 12. We will read chapter 13 tomorrow, called Ames Crossing. Hope you have a great day.